Okay, the very first race flighting of the race flights. Props on correctly. No, the props are not on correctly. I'm a dumbass. I'm Joshua Bardwell, and I flew Raceflight 1 today. That's right, I flew Raceflight 1 for the first time, and I'm going to show you what my experience was like and give you my subjective opinions of what it's like to fly Raceflight 1. The timing for this video really could not be better. Raceflight had a great big live streaming promotional event for Raceflight 1 today. I'm not 100% sure whether it's officially in public release or whether it's still a release candidate, but it's out there. It's coming soon. In fact, the Raceflight guys are recommending that if you have a Revolt, or if you have the Schizo board, which is basically just a Revolt in a different color, that you officially say bye-bye to old-style Raceflight. They're strongly recommending that you upgrade to Raceflight 1. If you're interested in seeing what that experience might be like, I have a video, I'll link to it in the upper right, where you can see what my experience was like of installing Raceflight 1 and configuring it for the first time on this very same copter. The copter that I'm going to be flying today is the Shendrone's Zoom Pod with the Easy Drone motors, the Acon 4-in-1 ESC, and of course the Raceflight Revolt. If you want to know more about that copter, I've got a full build series for it, 4 videos where I build the copter out, and I'll link to that in the upper right. And I'll also put the specs of the copter down in the video description. Suffice it to say, it's all premium quality gear. There's absolutely no reason why this copter shouldn't be able to fly perfect with pretty much any flight control software, but certainly with one as fancy as Raceflight 1. Now, what I did was I took the copter out and I flew it. I'm flying it completely on the stock PIDs. I'm even flying it on the stock rates. I didn't change a single thing. And I did that because I wanted to get the pure, untainted race flight experience. Wouldn't it be just like me to go, well, sir, clearly I know better, and start screwing around with it and screw it up, and then do a bad review about it, and then have somebody say, well, yeah, you screwed it up. Of course it didn't work right. So I wanted to do that exactly like the race flight guys intended me to do it. And so I did. I haven't changed a single thing about this. The other thing is that I don't have any experience tuning Raceflight 1. Unless you're a beta tester or a developer, neither do you. So I'm not really in a position to tell you, well, here's how to get the best tune out of your copter. And in fact, I didn't want this video to be a how to tune Raceflight or Raceflight 1 video. I want this video to be, does it live up to the hype? The hype is that you put Raceflight 1 on your copter and OMG, it flies so great. It flies so perfect right out of the box, right? And I wanted to see just how much it actually lived up to that. So I'm going to show you what it flies like. Absolutely stock, and I'm not going to make any changes. I'm just going to do the standard set of maneuvers that I do anytime I begin tuning a copter to try to find out which parts of the tune might need me to work on them and which parts are going pretty well. All right, now that it's all said and done, let's take a look at the flight video. What you saw there was literally the very first pack that I flew on Raceflight 1, and I'll give you my impressions. Number one, the prop wash handling is exceptional. It's exceptionally good. I've seen Betaflight handle prop wash as good as this. But the default Betaflight PIDs have the D gains dialed way down because they know that a certain number of people are going to have too much vibration, the motors aren't going to be clean, the props are going to be bad, and if they put the D gains at a point where they handle prop wash really well, some percentage of people are going to smoke motors because the D gain is too high for them. If RaceFlight 1 is able to deliver this level of prop wash handling, it suggests that they're doing something really, really special with their filtering to allow them to have D gains as active as the D gains must need to be to handle prop wash without smoking some percentage of people's motors. And presumably they're not smoking motors left and right because you can't release a product like that, right? Surely nobody would do that. So the prop wash handling is very, very good. I did some throttle punches to see how well the nose held attitude when the throttle position changed. And I didn't find that handling to be exceptional. I found it to be good, but not spectacular. You can definitely see the nose going up and down as I jam the throttle aggressively. I found with Betaflight at anti-gravity gain feature in Betaflight 3.1, I can usually get the nose to be really rock solid. So that's certainly something to look for. You're going to see me in a subsequent flight. I watch as I do that and see what you think of how well the nose holds when I jam and chop the throttle. The other thing I noticed, and this is the big one, there's almost like an I-term wind-up rebound at the end of flips and rolls. It is a single, slow, soft bounce back. And I say I-term wind-up, and I cringe a little bit when I say that because modern flight control software has pretty much solved the problem of I-term wind-up. So I don't actually think it's likely to be I-term wind-up, but I can't think of anything else, the P-term, the D-term, that would cause this exact kind of bounce back. Again, look at the end of flips and rolls, and you'll see just one really kind of big bounce back. Okay, I'm going to let you see the next flight. Think about the things that I just said and form your own opinions, of course. Another claim that I wanted to investigate was the claim that if you arm RaceFlight 1 and leave the motors idling, it doesn't wind up. So I did that, and let's see what happened. Yeah, so it sounds like it's winding up. I mean, it's not going to fly away, but the motors are winding up. No big deal. So then I put the camera up tilt to maximum for what the must be something like 55, 60 degrees for the zoom pod. I don't know what it is. It's maximum. And I tried to hold on for the ride. And it was during that maximum up tilt, holding on for my life flight that I felt like I came to an appreciation of why many racers are choosing race flight over the other options that are available to them. And the racers say it's very simple. My lap times were faster with race flight than with the other options. I haven't seen anything handle prop wash so well when flown so aggressively. Obviously, you could cherry pick examples, right? But I didn't do anything special. This is just stock PIDs. It's reasonable quality gear. I slapped it on the Copter. I went out and flew it. And I don't think I just got lucky that my Copter happened to fit well with the default PIDs and fly well. I think that it's something that Raceflight is doing very well. I was able to fly so aggressively with so much up tilt to carve through those turns without ever having to back off the throttle or try to think about managing prop wash or worry that the Copter was oscillating and getting a little out of control. I was able to just focus on, as best I could, because I'm not much of a racer, in case you couldn't tell from that flying. I was able to focus on trying to make my Copter go where I wanted it to go. And especially if you're a racer, that will be the number one thing I think that you're looking for. The next question that you could be asking is, well, couldn't Betaflight do the same thing? And we can actually answer that question because I can just put Betaflight on this very same Copter and I'm pretty sure that the default PIDs are not tuned aggressively enough to match this performance out of the box. But if I were to try to tune it up, could I get similar performance out of it? That's an interesting question, and one that I will probably address at some future date, but not today. The other sort of elephant in the room that needs addressing, and those of you who've been filling up my comment section with this topic will be glad that I've mentioned it. And there are some questions related to the Raceflight project and open source licensing. I know for a fact that the original Raceflight project, not Raceflight 1, but the original Raceflight project, it was based on an open source project. It was then taken closed source, which was in violation of the license that it was under. And then it was opened up again, and there was a whole lot of other drama back then involving deleted comments and arguing and accusations and etc. And now the Raceflight guys say, well, we've taken Raceflight 1. It's closed source. It's a completely original code. It's not got any open source code. We're not violating any licenses at all. And so we're all good, right? And, you know, I don't feel strongly enough about, I think that's a very muddy topic. There are some parts of it that are very clear, but the overall, there are people who would like to hear me say, Raceflight is bad, they did bad things, and I'm never speaking of them again. And clearly, since you're watching this video, I'm not doing that. But you should know, in case you care, and many of you won't care, I'm not here to try to convince you, but you should know in case you care that the Raceflight guys definitely did, in my opinion, violate the GPL, the GNU public license that their code was based on when they took the original Raceflight project closed source. And there, even if you are willing to forgive that or say, okay, well, that's in the past, now Raceflight 1 is completely original code. Even if you're willing to grant them that Raceflight 1 is, in fact, completely original code, which no one can know whether that's true or not without seeing the source, which, as far as I know, they haven't released it. There's an argument to be made in favor of open source in general. And this is an argument that I am comfortable making, and I'm going to indulge myself a little bit and take a few seconds of your time to make the argument. The whole RC hobby has benefited so much from open source, multi-Wii, right? An open source project. None of us would be here with Baseflight and then CleanFlight and then Betaflight. And yes, even Raceflight, which was built out of CleanFlight, and it was an open source project for a long time before they decided they were going to take it closed source and try and make a few bucks. We've all benefited from that. And when there are closed source projects out there where people are personally profiting from it, the open source guys start to look at that askance and maybe not want to contribute stuff out in, because the closed source guys can just take open source stuff and they can take the best of it, they can cherry pick it, they can take it behind their closed doors, they can do whatever they need. They basically, it's you're playing poker and your cards are on the table and their cards are against the chest, right? So I think that closed source in general always threatens an open source ecosystem. But when there's a separation between the closed source and the open source ecosystem, the open source guys are sometimes, they're willing to give the benefit of the doubt. And we see that right now with KISS and Betaflight, and KISS and Betaflight developers work together. They worked on D-Shot. It's this harmonious thing. Felix, the KISS developer, has he has the trust of the community that he's not just poaching the best ideas from Betaflight for himself, trying to make a few bucks for himself, that he's actually doing his own work, and nobody begrudges him that. But especially when you have a case where a project it absolutely did violate closed source stuff in the past, it starts to look really suspicious, and it potentially is bad for the community as a whole. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because some of you care about that, and you're going, yeah, and you can do your own research and find out more about what happened and the allegations, and I don't expect you to take my word on it for anything. And there are those of you out there who just care about making a podium and don't give a crap about that, and I certainly am not going to begrudge you that either. That's certainly your prerogative. But I do agree with some of you who said that I should at least acknowledge it, and now I have. And that's going to do it. That's going to do it for this little roundup of Raceflight 1. You'll probably see some more of it going forward, but for now, you got my opinion. Raceflight 1 does have something special when it comes to prop wash handling. It's not perfect, but it definitely has got something going on under the hood. Thanks for watching. Happy flying.